Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Upper Darby Township Planning Commission meeting for November 14th. Do a visual roll call. The only person missing is Steve, and he had submitted that he would be running a bit late and plans to be here. So we didn't meet in October. So you have the September minutes from the September meeting. Does anybody have any comments or changes required? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
A second?
I second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Communications and bills, we're still free of that one. Tonight, we have one submission for review. That's going to be the submission for a subdivision and land development at 7315 Marshall Road, also known as 60 to 66 Sherbrooke Boulevard. So if representatives of the developer would like to come forward and present your plan. And for the benefit of the commission, this is a preliminary, we're at the preliminary stage of this plan. Oh, shoot. It's in, you know what happens automatically, and then you don't. Thank you.
You have to plug in through the port. Ethernet port there.
Oh. There's no Wi-Fi set up here?
It's,
Issues?
they took it back now that we have Wi-Fi. They took away the hotspot, but I don't have the Wi-Fi password.
Yeah.
Or I'll have the hotspot back.
Or does it go?
Yep. Oh, nice.
Scott's away on vacation, so I can't get anything right now.
Sorry, Dad, I'm getting the technology set up. Okay.
We have, I'm with Danny Green from ZRT Design, we're the architect and structural engineers on the project. I'll let Kenny introduce himself.
My name is Kenny. I'm with Hawk Economics Engineering. We're the engineers on this project. This is the
Robert Babb, I'm speaking on behalf of the licensed surveyor who will ultimately be the design surveyor for the final survey.
What we're proposing is, it's an existing building on a 60 to 66 Sherbrooke Boulevard. It's an existing, I think it used to be retail. I think there used to be a restaurant there also. We're proposing to put 2 stories on top with 8 2-bedroom units. We're gonna renovate the existing first floor, turn it into well, it's retail, we're just gonna keep it retail. In the back of that, there's no parking now, so we're cutting a new driveway in the back to allow parking for the apartments. There's also an adjoining entrance to the hardware store on Marshall Road. So we're proposing to close that off just so we have full access to the back for the parking. We're gonna do completely new exterior facade on the existing, of course, new on the building up. That's pretty much what we're proposing to do. We're running into some issues of, I guess, according to the existing floodplains that was there before in the back. We're having issues accessing the existing, manhole that's there now. But we're trying to work it out. I'll let him speak more on that.
Sure. First of all, you have any questions before I tell you what I was gonna say? Okay.
The
Sure.
floodplain.
Yep.
Sorry. You know where the floodplain is, Mike? Yeah, the floodplain meanders onto the site. It's also in the floodway. So a portion of the floodway, based on the FEMA mapping, goes on to the subject parcel.
Mhm.
I did talk to the, what's your name?
Robert.
Robert, before the meeting. I think he's trying to get some information. They're trying to do what's called a LOMA, a letter of map amendment with FEMA.
Okay.
So they can try to see if that, they could get a new determination on the location of the floodway, which would take the floodway out of the parcel area, because if you're in a floodway, you can't develop in a floodway. So that's something they have to work on, getting that worked out. But I have some data for you.
Thank you.
And if you're having trouble popping the manholes, let's see what we can do to try to,
That's one.
get you some data and see if that helps you out with your LOMA application.
I appreciate that, right. Thank you. Yeah, and then the idea would be to delineate that a little better on the plan so that we can actually see where it is. And hopefully just get some relief directly from FEMA to avoid any floodplain issues at all. And then proceed from there. See where we're at that point.
And that's on the screens, the floodplain, if that's helpful for.
Right, which is
Visual.
obviously a generalization from an old flood study that,
Yeah, the candy cane looking striping is floodway.
Okay.
The light blue
Well,
is
for- just for
floodplain.
everyone's-
Yeah,
Floodway meaning it gets wet, right?
that's the area where, more
It's
or
channel.
less the channel, you could
Okay.
call it, the channel, yeah.
I believe it's channeled underneath.
And this is a tributary to,
It's Nowers Run.
it is now,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, again, it's not daylit, it's channeled underneath.
It's piped, yeah.
Yeah.
Is this the building?
That's the
shadow?
building, yeah.
That's the building.
so theoretically, this would be a very deep culvert that runs far below the ground. So it's a little misleading when you think floodway, cutting through a building.
When did it most recently flood?
That I don't know.
I'd say Hurricane Isaias. I don't know what kind of flooding we have had there. More flooding happens down by 69, right when you get past Marshall.
We have visited that site several times in the course of doing our normal physical conditions locations, and we have not seen a wet site, even directly after a rain. So I don't know for whatever that's worth.
What is this zone as now? Commercial?
Yeah,
C1.
Yeah, C1.
I believe it's C1.
C1, yes, C1.
We have an aerial shot of the floodplain overlays that we can see,
Sure.
Do we have a map on any of the plans?
or do you have like massing there or elevation?
We have an existing conditions
I didn't bring
plan.
it in. Didn't bring
Is that
existing
part of the
conditions.
set?
Did you bring a print of this?
I don't have a print.
Josh, did you get zoning relief right?
Yep.
We have,
They got zoning
on
relief.
our existing conditions,
Josh has a copy.
oh, you do?
Yeah, Josh has a copy.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Just zoom out like one click.
Yeah, so this is Marshall Road here, and this is Sherbrooke Boulevard. You keep going up, you'll hit the school, the middle school.
I'm sorry, where's the middle school? Where you staying?
Yeah, so here's Marshall Road. This is Sherbrooke. If you take this right all the way up, you hit the middle school here, Beverly Hills Middle School. Sorry, I'm having a tough time. You guys all right if I go do a street view?
Sorry?
So you can get kind of a.
I'll need to go on that. What we're looking at, this is what was submitted for the land development review.
This is just the,
Or was there something?
submitted other plans.
I've got some extra copies.
This is just a colored site plan. I figured it'd be easier to look at other than,
These have to be returned, but
No, I don't need, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just.
no, I have a site plan, and it's also uploaded to the drive as well.
Where the entrance to the apartments, you all the same?
we're planning on doing a lobby in the center of that building there, the existing building for the apartments, and retail on both sides.
This is the space we're talking about?
This is the existing.
Okay, with the rest, okay,
So it's the part between,
right, so
so it's not the the lumberyard behind.
Yeah, lumberyard stays,
That
is,
stays.
yes.
Okay, this is-
The lumber is, you're gonna put the apartments on top, right?
No, no, we're putting the,
No.
on top of this building.
So you're gonna keep this existing?
We're keeping that existing. We're creating a lobby to get to the apartments in the center of that, retail on both sides, retail or commercial, whatever. the tenant wants.
So the lumber is unchanged, completely unchanged.
Not touching.
But the same owner from the Brooklyn.
Yes.
Do you know, for the retail space on the lower level, will it be, do you know about how many different retail spaces it will be?
Honestly, we're just looking at 2 spaces. We don't have that much.
About 2?
Yes.
Okay.
One on either side
Of the center
of
lobby
the
area?
center lobby. going up
Okay,
to the
and
apartment.
then so 2-story addition, 8 units, so roughly 4 units per floor.
Yes,
1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
bedrooms.
But all 8 of them will be 2 bedroom?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys have preliminary floor plans, right?
I submitted those last for zoning. I can make sure you guys have all the unit plans. Did you have the unit plans from the first time?
I can certainly look. Yeah, it should be through your email, right?
Yep.
Which,
I can-
I got it right here. Oh, wait, did you?
So the proposed loading, while he's looking for that, seems to abut, I guess, green space. So there's not an entrance on that side of the building where the proposed loading area is?
No, there's just an existing wooden step there coming from off of Sherbrooke.
I have it.
You do?
Yeah.
Awesome,
Give me 1 second. It's a download.
thank you.
See, it's good. Same guy does the zoning and planning. All right, so this is kind of the preliminary site plan and then a floor plan of each unit. And I can, if you guys want to explain, I can go flip through them if you want.
So just like we said, there's gonna be 2 spaces on either sides of that lobby. 22 much, 2,200 square foot each. You should go to the next one.
Yeah.
And layout of the apartments, they're stacked right on top of each other, stays the same on both floors.
Okay.
And
Oh,
3 and
yeah,
4,
that's what I
okay.
wanted to see. I wanted to see that. That looks great.
We are in the process of creating colored renderings for the elevations.
Did you guys see the floor plan? Thank you, Mark. Okay.
You want to go back?
There's another zoning question. For C1,
Mhm.
living residential in the C1 district, is that required?
They got variances.
It's already been granted.
Yep, they got all their variances that they should need. Unless we can't come to agreement on some of the,
What does that mean, Josh?
with some of Mike's comments, but they should be all answerable.
So they have the variances? or the
Yes, they have the variances. They have the variances for use. I believe you guys also got parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was all approved by the zoning hearing board.
You need variance.
Yes.
Just one parking spot, we're short one.
Okay.
So the entrance to the building, just so I orient myself, is to the residential units, is within it's on the side of the building that's facing the inside of the parking lot, correct?
No, it's facing Sherbrooke, the main entrance. We have an exit out to the parking lot, but the main entrance is off of Sherbrooke.
So the anticipated loading path is them going up onto the sidewalk?
There's a sidewalk out the parking lot, up the existing steps, and there's an exit door or exit or entrance in this case. But it would have to be with a key card or something back there.
So is the traffic flow is coming in this way as far as,
Do you mind if I
Yeah.
come closer?
yeah?
Yeah, because I'm still confused about. This is the loading area, right?
Yeah.
So the anticipated path is them coming up here and entering from wherever the doors are on the sidewalk?
Yeah, they would use this sidewalk here, rear exit.
So they would come back through the, I guess,
Or the
whatever
sidewalk.
this is, the throughway.
Sidewalk here.
These are steps?
Yes,
correct?
yes, existing steps. That works.
And that's it. So there's steps, a landing, then steps?
Yeah. The steps on both sides of the landing, so it goes both ways. We're just gonna keep it.
Mhm.
So, is there a lot of street parking there?
Let's say there's about 4 spots in front of our building. There's 2 spots that are Xed out that we won't touch, but there's about another 3 spots beyond that.
I'm saying, what was the purpose in taking away a parking spot? And parking is so critical today. Two-bedroom apartment, everybody's got 2 cars.
They required loading, so we had to make space for loading back.
And where's the dumpster gonna be?
There's a dumpster pad
Pull it out right here.
called out right, can I?
Sure. In the back of the building?
Yes.
Where nobody can see it?
I'm sorry, where is that? He put it up there.
Yeah, yeah. Can you do it from here?
Oh, sure.
Dumpster pad right here in the back.
By the entrance? That's the entrance though, right?
Well,
Isn't that?
no, the entrance is in the front.
Main entrance
This is
is
the
at the
rear
front.
exit to get to the parking lot. And on the other side of this, be a small fenced off area right here for the dumpster. So it's about 10 foot from the steps. Dumpster pad.
The parking spaces, are they anticipated to be reserved for the residential?
These parking spaces?
Right.
Yes.
And how will that be monitored? Trust people don't park there that shouldn't?
I'm assuming we would actually number them. We'd have to come up with a numbering system that would be allocated to the apartments. We just haven't gotten.
Is there any green space for the, like benches, park, little lawn? I mean, I see this grass here, but is that just green brush area? What?
Just green lawn, we're gonna put as much, list out like dwarf fire, shrubs.
Yeah, I see that problem, saying, but is there any like outside area that you're setting aside for the residents? I mean, 8 families or whoever gonna be living there,
Yeah.
and there's no balconies, no decks?
We didn't do balconies.
Forgive me, can you, one more time? Where's the apartment entrance?
The apartment entrance is over Sherwood, in the center of this building here. You pull back the plan, floor plan?
Okay, and I'm sorry, the existing stairs to the right, what does that go to?
This?
Yes,
It's just an old existing staircase that goes down into the, was a loading dock there a long time ago. For some reason, it's not there anymore. The steps that are just there, we didn't want to take them out, we just keep them.
okay.
But it could be used as an entrance or exit to the parking lot for tenants. This is the entrance to the apartment. Probably, yeah, just to be,
So now it's oriented the same, so this
There you
is
go.
Sherbrooke,
this is Sherwood,
this is the back.
this is the back. Dumpster pad right here. Loading right here, parking.
So you said those stairs could be used. Does that mean, the sidewalk and the parking lot, they're not level, right? They're 2 different.
Yeah, they're
Or
about,
They are level?
no, they're not level, they're about, the parking
So-
lot's about 5 feet lower.
Yeah, it slopes,
Okay, so you
slopes down.
have to use those stairs, don't you, to get into the parking lot from the sidewalk? I mean, assuming you're not driving into the parking lot.
Yeah, you'd have to use either these stairs or the existing one that's out here.
And so ADA entrance?
We proposed that up front here. And this is on grade with Sherwood, 6 inches above, proposed ramp here with the 3 or 4 extra parking spots that's out there now. Existing, they're not lined out, just be street parking.
So the ADA parking is street parking?
Yes.
Is that allowed?
I think we're gonna have to have at least a handicap parking stall inside the parking lot, an accessible route to the building without obtaining any specific hardship from the code official or the building code. Because you need, at least for that off-street parking area, you need at least 1 stall.
Yeah.
So that's something we can look at when we look at
Okay.
I was looking at that when, during my review, I made a comment about that. So
Yeah, I saw it.
I think that's something we just gotta work on.
Okay. We're willing to work with it, just getting in the back of that parking lot to get a ramp to go around, we'd have to be,
Right, that's what I was wondering, I don't see how there could be an ADA entrance, at least not to the main entrance in the front.
You'd
It's a
have to
5 foot, it would have to be to the rear.
You'd have to have some kind of ramp, coming up.
Right.
Yeah, from the side of the building maybe. Right, coming up the side, you could come up with like 8% slope, 30 landing, 8% slope. But I haven't, I haven't seen enough of the grading to really, make that determination. That's something I would work on with you guys when, at the end of coming out of this meeting.
Explain to me, when the truck comes to pick up the dumpster, where does he come in? I see this asphalt, so I'm assuming he comes on one side of, and then turns around or backs out, or how does he collect the trash?
I'm assuming he would go down the parking lot, turn around and go back up.
Right, but I think what he's asking is like the turn radius, how would he would have to back, they would come in off of Sherbrooke, right?
Yes. Back in.
I'm running, back in off of Sherbrooke.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a truck there.
Well, it's still, that was one of the comments that we had too
Yeah.
as well, asking to get a truck turning template for the trash truck, so we could see how it would be accessed. One thing I was thinking, that location, you may want to rethink that because it'll locate proximity to the building. And I think there's some fire code things you got to look at as well, when you have the trash dumpsters next to the building. So that's something that could be worked out as well. I mean, keep in mind, this was a preliminary submission, so they want to get that preliminary
Right.
feedback.
Has there, been any consideration regarding like deliveries and is the anticipation that deliveries would happen at the main Sherbrooke entrance, or would they come?
I would just
is that something that's
just put the dumpster
thought through?
at the guy.
I'm thinking
Like
if
Amazon, fill in the blank,
we have it would be a package in the lobby, package, we just use Amazon lock boxes. Yeah. Obviously with USPS too, we'd have to do that in the lobby.
Is this supposed to be a manned lobby?
No, ma'am.
So just key card entrance?
Yes.
And is the current building, did you say it had been restaurant? Is that what was in there?
It was a restaurant at the end, all the way to the end.
Yeah. So the future retail is it going to be more just retail and not restaurant?
Yeah,
No
we look for
kitchen?
something easy where there's not required parking,
Right,
just
right.
in and out.
In and out retail type thing, not 2 hours at a restaurant type thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
they're like 2,200 square feet each.
Don't those businesses, aren't they supposed to have some sort of parking? Is there a parking requirement? Because what will happen is, the people in the stores are gonna go into the apartment parking. That happens anywhere, but we're kind of setting it up for that to happen.
The parking for it being multi-use has been approved by the zoning board. It has been approved. They went through and, calculated it, and it did get approved, as long as I'm remembering that correctly. No. Just from a legal standpoint.
Right. I mean, but I imagine, management, like any other place, will have a sign, it says parking reserved, you'll be towed if you break the rule,
And I know there's a bus station here as well,
On this lot, you're saying?
next to the lot. So usually too, they'll try and think of those as, it might need a little bit less parking if it's an area with more transit riders, and if there's, a walkable, some sort of walkable transit stop, they'll usually reduce it.
Josh, can you swivel to the left a little bit? I just want to see the angle for where the buses come in. That's for this site, that's the driveway that loops around the back right there.
Yeah, here's the dividing line.
Is there any way, because I know we talked about this with another project about when situations like that, when it's kind of this driveway to driveway, it's some sort of delineation on the ground for pedestrians and things of that nature. Right now,
Yeah.
we're very.
That'd be a great
something that
comment
we
to
can
add.
make Part of like the comments or something.
Do you want
Yeah,
to,
that'd
like a
be great.
fence dividing the,
Not necessarily, but like not necessarily a fence, but you remember that one project we looked at that was next to a school? But there was a driveway and there was gonna be high traffic, like these would be high traffic. And we were trying to brainstorm ways to make it just safer for pedestrians.
You mean within the right-of-way area?
Right. And we were
Yeah, that's
talking,
something we can look at. I see what you're saying, like.
Either
people are
brick or
walking down the street,
something.
they're Not going driveway to driveway,
Right.
there's some kind of like refuge area for
right,
them to stand in potentially. Maybe like a detectable warning surface or something.
something like, right.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever landed on something, but that was a discussion.
What's the width of the driveway?
the driveway going in now existing, 24?
It's 24 feet?
Yep.
So you wouldn't really have much room then, because 24, I think, is for a two-way. So it's really more SEPTA's property then.
On the other, yeah,
If it's 24 is to that line.
where the cone is.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's more than 24 now. Because
Oh, okay.
if you,
You're adding some grass buffer in there,
yes,
right?
yes,
Oh,
we're
so
adding
maybe can-
grass buffer.
Add some to the other side, reduce some on that side.
What about lighting?
You could pull the site plan back up.
Yeah. Oh.
We're proposing doing lighting all the buildings on these three sides and 2 poles in the parking lot back here. We're gonna light
Was there
all
a
the
lighting
building,
plan?
off the building, off the
I think there
building.
was. I think it's just something.
Was there current, I couldn't, I'm trying to remember all the words, was there current lighting on the sidewalk on Sherbrooke at this section of the street?
Existing now?
Right.
Uh,
I believe there's a street light
There's a street light. There's a street light right here. Right there.
Okay, okay.
Oh, okay, good.
Can you zoom in on those steps, Josh? If it's possible.
What's that?
That's perfect. So that's a five, you said that's a 5-foot difference in, is that what you're saying?
I don't know what the difference is.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
something that-
it's 5 foot, it's 5 foot, yeah. As you proceed more to the rear, it drops up to like 6 feet, but the initial drop is about 5 feet.
It's 4.2 feet from the top of the steps to the bottom of the parking lot, at the base of the steps.
Can you circle around to the other side of the street, please? I just want to see what's,
Like across the street?
yeah, across the street. Okay. So these are private homes? These are not apartment buildings or what?
And then there's a commercial, becomes commercial. Commercial here is one commercial strip on the corner.
I see.
It transitions to residential off into middle school. But this is all commercial.
What's the activity in the lumberyard?
There's nothing back there that affects, everything goes off of Marshall for the lumberyard.
Okay. Noise level?
It
I
closed-
see.
Yeah, they close early.
Does anybody have any further questions?
No.
Do you know how long the current building has been unused? Or Josh, do you know how long the current building's been unused, vacant?
We do have the owners, I'll ask them real quick.
go all the way through final approval and so on. What's your completion timeframe after that?
Well,
I think.
it's kind of all based on,
Yes, assuming, like, if today everything was.
okay,
all ready to go.
building permits, say 9 months construction.
All right. So less than a year generally?
Yes.
Once everything is clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions?
I'm sorry, one more. What kinds of retail or what kinds of shops are you courting or hoping that go in there?
Honestly, right now,
Smoke shops, there's only 5 at that intersection.
No, no smoke shop, no smoke shop.
Please, please, God, no.
Moses, are you looking at anything? You guys have anything in mind?
This whole thing's about putting up a small smoke shop.
So any
So
any
no-
ideas?
Okay.
Oh, that's a great idea.
For the tenants only?
For the tenants,
And how big is this space?
2,200 square feet one side.
We're gonna have small tenants.
They're personal trainers.
Well, I guess in that same vein, do we have an idea of what kind of rents they're looking for? These are 2-bedroom. I didn't catch the square footage of each unit, but maybe I missed that.
If they're 2,200 and it's 2 units above it, so probably 1,100 square feet per unit. That's a nice size. 2 bedroom.
And I'm sorry, was there an answer to your question about the cost, the rent?
You have an idea?
Or desired, maybe is a better way to say it.
Yeah.
because You can't tell how the market's gonna go.
For a 2 bedroom.
The other thing, I mean, big picture wise here, I'm always concerned when, if there's a rule, but I know you said zoning gated parking, but I'm still gonna chime in here. Everybody wants, whatever the rule is, they wanna do less. And we need to go back to, if the rule is you have X amount requirement for spaces, you should have that amount, there's a reason why they have that rule there. So I'm always against any type of plan where it doesn't follow the township plan.
It's 11 spaces, right?
13.
We're required
No, what
14.
do they have? 11, right?
We're showing 13,
You had
we're
13.
required 14.
Oh, you're required 14.
We had 14, but then we took it out because we had to provide.
The loading?
We could, I mean, if that one parking spot is gonna hold up anything, we'll,
Yeah, you should take away an apartment. Where these parking spots long on the sides. That's not, I'm just telling you.
No,
I mean,
that,
cities have
those
to start
weren't,
following the rules.
they were never.
They were presented. They were presented, but how many stalls?
And then we could potentially lose another one if they force us to do ADA.
That's not part of the idea right there. You can't, it's not possible. Yeah, let's see what happens.
If they do make us do an ADA, it would be like a pretty long ramp. Like, you can probably get it to work, but this might have to be redone, to be honest. It'll be like a long ramp that, I don't know.
Crazy, because we'd have to cut this back here to get
It's
around.
about 5 foot, 5 foot times. It'll be a
A
long,
long,
long ramp.
yeah,
Okay.
So, yeah, I got it.
yeah,
It's tough.
very. See,
I'm good.
Any other questions? So I think at this point, since we're just a preliminary, we would make a motion to let the project continue forward, working with Mike to clear
I
the
mean,
comments.
technically make it, open it up to public comment, and
Oh.
then make whatever motion you'd like.
There's no one there. Yes. Is there any member of the public? Seeing as none, would anyone like to make a motion to let the project proceed, working with Mike, and at some point, the group will come back and show us their final plans?
I would vote no. I'm not making a motion
Am I allowed to make a motion?
No.
Oh, what was the motion? I thought it was-
No, I'm looking for,
To see the project proceed. Whatever the next.
But
whatever that
proceed
next-
means
working,
continuing to work.
continuing to work with Mike.
Right.
Because this is only preliminary.
Yes.
Yes, they have to come
This is only preliminary. They're coming back.
All right, let me make sure I say it right. I make a motion to allow the applicant to, I'll use proceed, but by that I mean
Continue working with the township
with the
engineer.
township, and to come back before the board for final approval.
Yes.
Which at that time, we could still vote to not
Yes.
proceed, correct?
Yes. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Am I allowed to second? I'll second. All in favor? So this is the motion to proceed with Mike working. Okay, so there's a motion, there's a second. All in favor? I think we got me and Steve. Any,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
yes,
I'd be, no.
okay,
Yeah, me too. No.
okay. I don't know what that means for the developer, to come up with a new,
Advisory.
right, we are advisory. I mean, it's already through zoning,
Yeah.
so. You know, so really, it's our opportunity to more shape the plan. You know, this is an opportunity to shape the plan.
Make the plan something that would work for, work with your guys' ideals in mind.
Right,
This isn't, preliminary isn't to approve it, yes or no, it's to figure out what you guys want, what you want to see for them to make revisions.
Right.
See if you can meet that.
I mean, if it were to say, let it approve, but there has to be a 14th parking space, we'd like to see it approved, but there has to be
The ADA,
something else,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, there are
We can
issues
list-
that need to
We
be,
can list those things. Mike does have 5 pages of comments, so they will have to clear all 5 pages of Mike's comments to come back. And if we wanted to add to that, a parking space, ADA, like we need to see a better ADA plan. And.
flood zone.
Yeah, that's part of Mike's list.
Yeah.
Sorry, just as a point of order, we would have to vacate what we
Yes.
just did.
Yes, we would.
We should have did
Well,
this.
perhaps.
Oh, okay, I'm just so we're clear. 'cause we
Right.
technically already-
Because we already voted it. Right, so we'd have to vacate that.
Which should be able to just be done with a motion if that's what you guys
Yes.
want to do. But I
Yes.
just wanted to be clear that
Yes.
that happened.
Right. Right, because even though we are only advisory, it still did was
We still
motion.
need to,
Right.
for the purpose of the minutes.
Still did a motion. So with that clarification, should we proceed with to vacate and revote?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody's going to make the motion to vacate the motion.
I make a motion to vacate the earlier motion.
Is there a second? Steve will second. All in favor? Okay, all in favor of to vacate the previous motion?
Aye.
Okay. Now, everybody? I think, Jim, did you say, did you? Okay, 4
So vacate, yes.
to
I
vacate.
don't like this plan. I don't like the plan, so I'm not chiming in.
So 5 for vacate?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, now,
Now, can I make
Yeah.
a comment about the plan?
Yeah.
It's like, even this enormous driveway, why does the driveway come right into the parking area? I mean, creating all this excessive drive area just looks like a problem. I think it's a misuse of the building. If you want to have apartments, make the whole building apartments and make more parking.
That's the existing, well, should we do this as suggestions? Because otherwise we're just.
Okay, anyway,
If
I
I-
see the way the plan is laid out, with the parking, et cetera, and trying to squeeze 8 apartments on top of this and take away parking. I don't like the way it's laid out. But go ahead, go back to your.
I think it's irresponsible to put the residential units in this way, to be honest with you.
Well, that's part of the reason why I voted no the first time. I think we're concerned that a lot of the concerns will be addressed properly before we even advise that it should proceed?
So you guys can always vote to revise and resubmit.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. I think what you would vote on is to revise, resubmit, not the saying that, I understand your concern about the floodway, for sure. And that's where they have to get a LOMA, and they need to work that angle.
Even if they revise and resubmit, it could still come back as a preliminary. So, which it'll go from 2 reviews to 3 reviews, right? So this is your, you could vote to revise and resubmit. They come back for preliminary, you give more comments, and then you can decide if you want to move it to the next step where it would go to council.
What's the realistic timelines of those loans though? Because I feel like if it comes back before that's completed, it's kind of.
I've seen them it could take maybe 6 months, potentially, around that range is my guess, depending on how much workload FEMA has, because that's got to go to FEMA to make that determination.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think, like, we all agree that that would be influential in sort of how we decide on this going forward.
I will say, it's really hard to approve the plan with the floodway being on the building right now, because if the floodway is in the building, you really can't be built, right? Because the floodway is there. Won't allow for that building to be constructed. But I think the revise and resubmit recommendation allows the developer to work on the plans, make adjustments, come back with a more refined plan that the planning commission can review and potentially support.
Yeah, with that in mind,
So a motion to revise and resubmit. And a second? Okay, all in favor of asking the developer to revise and resubmit the plan?
aye.
Aye. Okay.
Just want to say something if you guys don't mind.
Just come up to the mic.
Come up to the mic, I gotta tell us who you are too. Sorry.
Right.
My name is Moses Charles, one of the owner,
Okay.
and I want to say,
You just bought this place recently, basically?
yeah, about going on to 2 years.
And you do own it, right?
Yeah, we do own it. What I want to say tonight, I'm very disappointed in this township, the way this whole process had went. I wish you guys were the ones sitting on the zoning board, if you're the one that's making these decisions. Because if we weren't getting kind of in support to do what we're about to do from the township, we were not gonna be here tonight. So to be here tonight and to listen to the 5 of you up there, I'm totally disappointed with this township. And we don't have to put that apartment there. We could take our money somewhere else. I just want to let you guys know that. Myself and this man here, we own lots of property in Upper Darby. We want the best for Upper Darby. We want to see this township get better and not get worse. And we wanted to put over $1.5 million into this building. If you guys are giving us such a hard time, I would gladly walk away from this township and to go into a township where somebody would work with you, because this is not nowhere professional at all, the way this whole process has been handling.
can
I'm
I just-
totally disappointed with this township. I want to let you guys know that tonight. Totally disappointed. Never went through something like this. We work in Lansdowne, we work in Clifton Heights, we work in Darby, we work in Robertsonia. Nothing close to this. This is totally unaccepted, I would say, what we had to hear tonight from you guys.
Sir, do
Not professional at all.
you understand what our role is here?
I'm trying to get to understand it a little bit more, but,
Well, I'm asking because you're saying you're disappointed in what transpired here, and I just want to make sure it's a clear understanding of
I am not, no, I'm
what
not.
what's supposed to happen at the planning commission. So I want to make sure you actually understand, one, what our role is as a planning commission, but 2, what actually just happened. Because I'm inferring from what you're saying that I don't think you do understand what just happened. You weren't denied really anything at this point. There hasn't been a final decision made on your application one way or another. So I just want to make sure that you as the applicant and your agents here are all on the same page about what's supposed to happen when you come here for preliminary review, and also what just happened tonight. I want to make sure we're clear on that, because I'm getting the sense that you may not be, because you understand you weren't denied anything tonight.
What I experienced here tonight, in my opinion, it was confusion between what's really going on. It seemed as though that you guys are not clear what you're looking for. That's that's the understanding, what I got from sitting, hearing the five of you discuss this project. Want to say anything, Joe?
Just so you know, for me also, I have over 50 doors in Upper Darby, the lumberyard there. All I was trying to do here in Upper Darby is better Upper Darby. I just recently bought a hotel upstate New York. And I've had the same issue in Illinois also. I still live here in Upper Darby, and every other investor in this area leave. And for me to sit here tonight, like my partner said here, there is 5 different opinions that I heard here tonight. Going back to you, what you're saying, to downsize the building. We sat this place for 2 years that we've been paying taxes, we've been paying insurance, we've been paying mortgage on. Had we heard this, I understand what's going on, to answer your question, but had it didn't get past zoning with the parking and get to this point, we wouldn't have been dumping another $20, $30, $40 to get to this point, into this place. And for me, like my partner said here, it feels like we're hearing 5 different voices. And from my understanding, I think it's pretty much shut down.
Well, that's an incorrect understanding.
Right.
So just to be clear, what happened today, and if I say anything, if I misspeak, feel free to cut me off or say I misspoke. But what happened here tonight was the Planning Commission, which is separate and apart from the Zoning Hearing Board. This is our first time seeing this. So whatever happened at the Zoning Hearing Board is separate and apart from what's happening here. They have their standard of review, they have what they're required to look at, and then we have ours. And again, this is our first time looking at this project. So what you saw tonight was discussion, public discussion about your project instead of it happening behind closed doors, which sometimes happened. You were privy to the discussion of members of this commission who are individuals. We are a commission, but we also have different opinions, and that's what was being discussed before you. What happened was that because of those discussions and because of those differing opinions, what was motioned and voted on was to give you the opportunity to continue to have further engagement, which, by the way, you would have to do anyway, with the township, with the engineer, with LNI. Again, you would have to do that anyway. But now you have the benefit of having the township and the engineer and LNI having the input of our discussion when they engage with you. So when you come for final development, which all the townships that you named before, you would have to do that step in every township in the state. There's preliminary and there's final. That's not a Upper Darby specific thing. And so when you come for final, hopefully you would have the benefit of the discussion that you're able to, what you called confusion, discussion that you were able to hear and understand what the concerns were. And when you come for final approval at a certain point, hopefully by then those have been considered fully. And then at that point, we would make a final recommendation to the powers that be. But you haven't been slowed down, you haven't been delayed or anything about what happened here tonight. I'm just stating the fact. I'm not, that's the process is the process. We saw it here tonight for the first time and we discussed it and we made a recommendation of potential changes that you can make. You can decide not to make those changes. That's obviously your decision.
That's most likely what's gonna happen for me if I.
That's
may have to
fine.
excuse that, like I said, to me, it's total confusion because you guys was just voting on something and you didn't even understand what you're voting on. She had to keep explaining that to you guys over and over and over and over. That doesn't make sense to me. It's like, we seeking, to get approval from.
You weren't going to get approval tonight. See, that's how, I'm trying to make this clear. You were
It's a
not going to walk
process-
away today.
Process, like I said, and we did this in Clifton Heights. It was nothing close to this, we went through a process and it was nothing like this, man. So thanks for your time and I think that's all I would want to say this time. Thanks for your time and yeah.
Well,
Best
then the
of luck to you.
comments are so noted.
That was public comment. I think we still got to.
Mm-hmm, right.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Yes. So next item is to begin some discussion over some things that are going on in the zoning side, specifically regarding the smoke shop ordinance and some parking regulations. Zach, Josh, I don't know who I'm thinking of, Zach. Josh had sent out the ordinance concerning smoke shops. It laid out the definition of what constitutes a smoke shop. I think the highlights of that are basically 20% of your business being tobacco-oriented. And one of the other highlights of the ordinance was that it designates the, as far as placement of smoke shops, of course, within the proper zoning, but as far as the number of them and so on, 500 feet away from an existing smoke shop. That seemed to be the only restriction. Once you were in a proper zoning space, the only other restriction was that you were 500 feet away from an already existing smoke shop.
You don't have copies with it tonight, do you?
No, I sent them in.
And how does that 500 number?
You sent it in an email?
I sent it in an email, yeah.
National standards?
I don't know. It's in the ordinance. I don't know.
I can explain a little bit further too and provide maybe just a little bit of clarification on why we want to bring it up. So, I mean, this is a relatively new law. I think it was passed in, I want to say January or December of 2021 or January 2022. And essentially what it does is it allows smoke shops in every commercial district by special exception. Not quite sure how we got to that, but that's what it allows. And then it also creates a definition of a smoke shop that it has to be 20% of the total merchandise. So one of the things that, we talk a lot about in planning is implementation and kind of the planning process. So what will happen is, right, you'll go through the process, you'll put something out, you'll monitor for feedback, you make a change, and then you put it back in. You make that change, monitor for feedback, make recommendations, and it kind of goes in a circle. And I think that's something that would be useful for the smoke shop ordinance. And I think it would be useful for two reasons. One, we've seen kind of a spike in smoke shop openings. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed along the commercial corridors. And that might be,
Before you go on,
yeah.
Right now, they're permitted in any commercial.
By special exception, which means they have to meet certain requirements
So even today, they're only permitted by special exception.
in commercial districts. That's correct.
It's always been that way, that just started this year.
That's, I don't know what it was before, but that's what it's been for the past year.
All right.
Well, what does that mean, special? What does that mean?
So that means that they have to go to the zoning hearing board and they have to prove that they're meeting certain requirements. Requirements would be, and I don't have it in front of me, but it would be certain amounts of time where it can be open. It could be possibly providing a buffer if you're near residential. It could be being 500 feet away from any other smoke shop. And if they can go through and that they can prove that they're meeting all of these special requirements, then the zoning hearing board will grant them permission to use it.
It's a lower standard than the same,
Or it's a higher standard permitted use. Or it's a higher standard permitted use. It's in the middle. It's in between the two.
But the 500 feet is already set, you can't comment on that. I mean, that's-
No. So the reason I bring it up is this would be the body that would, if we wanted to make any changes, that would maybe come up with a draft proposal and give that draft to council to consider. So if we're seeing that maybe this isn't working out, maybe, oh, hey, there's a lot of smoke shops popping up over the place, maybe it should only be permitted, right, in the C-2 and the C-4, not C1 through C4. This would be the body to discuss that, come up with a plan, approve that change, and then make that recommendation to council. And that's why I bring it here. I also have, I wear many hats. I'm also the zoning officer. I found that the definition of it being 20% is incredibly difficult to enforce because it requires me to count merchandise, which is not something that's really realistic. So I'm certainly looking to this board for your ideas and your recommendations. And if we could come together with something, it doesn't have to be this meeting. We don't have to hash it out now, but I just want to bring it up so that we can keep it in old business and, discuss it and hopefully move towards some sort of amendment that we could recommend to council.
Let me add, so I guess procedurally, well, not really procedurally, but just, I guess in real life, like you said, how could you, counting merchandise doesn't seem like a realistic. But, so it's a threshold requirement, right? Once you get over 20%, then you're considered a smoke shop,
That's correct.
right? So on any given day, but it's not sales, it's like existing merchandise, right?
Yes, that's correct. It's existing merchandise, not sales.
Is that,
Is your mic on?
I don't believe it is.
Make sure you're using your mic for our Zoom users.
Sorry about that, can you hear me?
Yep.
I think it's on. And so, I guess what I'm having difficulty with is, the existing merchandise changes from day to day, right? If I know the zoning officer is coming in a certain day, I can put certain merchandise away and I'm magically not a smoke shop anymore. It seems like a weird way to determine that. Now, I don't have a better alternative in the moment, but just that seems like a strange way to determine whether something's a smoke shop or not.
I would be for crafting the strictest language we can legally get away
Exactly.
with.
Because the last thing I think we're looking for is for Upper Darby to be a haven where, hey, come one, come all.
Well, it's not just us, it's every community.
It's yeah, right. But there's definitely, this is a phenomenon that's,
And Steve, it's got to go somewhere. We have to have somewhere for it to
Right.
go.
You have to permit-
But it doesn't necessarily have to be as open as it seems to be right
Correct, yes.
now. Or at least there might be a legal precedent, and that might be why it was crafted as it was. And maybe it would be helpful to have Courtney come to one of the meetings and maybe discuss that. I don't know, Steve, you might be able to comment more on that, but
yeah, well, I haven't dealt with the smoke shop issue specifically, but, I think that would probably be helpful,
yeah.
if we could have.
So let me throw this out, just because there's a starting point. So I would imagine whatever changes we make zoning-wise, there's going to be dozens of shops that are going to have to just be grandfathered in because they're in business.
sure, anything that would be, before, and it's not even before you guys make a decision, just before council makes the change.
Right.
Would be grandfathered in.
Okay, so I know when it comes to uses like go-go bars, you do have to have a provision in your zoning to allow that
Like a
to
what?
some extent. What's that?
A what?
Like a go-go bar.
He's showing his age.
Maybe I'm dating myself.
Okay, boomer.
I have no idea.
A gentleman's bar.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a politer term.
Yes, those are, yes.
You do have to have a provision in there, right? But it's
Yes, so they-
very narrow. or-
Right, so I believe it's allowed in the
Saying
C-4.
as a starting point for with these smoke shops, something along those
Have it
lines.
as a regulated.
Yes, I don't know.
My only thinking is that had to be thought of before and there must be a reason that they're not. And it might be something legal.
Well,
I just don't know.
I don't know. I think a lot of these smoke shops, there used to be cigar stores, which nobody batted an eye at. And it evolved into these
Well, I
smoke
guess
shops.
I guess I need a better understanding of the definition. But besides that threshold of tobacco merchandise, because I can go, I guess a Wawa sells tobacco.
Right. I think WOW is actually a good example. That's probably a good example of what 20% is in that carousel in the middle or behind that one cash register all along the wall. That's probably pretty close to 20%, where the rest of the store is devoted to coffee, sandwiches, and groceries and stuff like that. That's probably a pretty good mental image of what 20% is. But a mental image is pretty tough to prove in a zoning hearing board meeting.
So if there's some below 20%, the other things are drug paraphernalia, things like that, right? That's what
Those are included, by our definition, those would be accessories, which are included as part of the 20%, yeah. So like hookahs, things of that, that's all accessories.
Okay, so what is the 80% supposed to be?
Well, this is if it was a convenience store or retail. It could be any other products.
And what,
I think part
But
the
many of the
issue is
smoke
that we-
shops are 100%. It's just that you're
Smoke shops are
Yeah.
21 to
all the way to
100%.
100%, right?
Then your convenience store will be considered a smoke shop if you go above that threshold. I
Exactly.
think part of the issue is that we combine smoke shop and smoking parlor, because when I think of smoking parlor, I think of, we were just talking about
Yeah, cigar shop.
someone, a place where you go to actually smoke, like cigars, or I don't know, whatever people smoke in these, cigarettes or whatever. But when I think of a smoke shop, I think of what you just described with Wawa. There's a section, well, obviously higher than 20%, but you literally go to buy paraphernalia and then leave. Which to me, those are like different things. And
The ordinance seems to combine them, though.
right.
Right.
And I think why we're seeing so many of these, a lot of investors are planning for the day when marijuana becomes fully legal and
Right.
they're gonna have a shop with a
Make sure
storefront.
you use your
ready-
mic.
Ready to go.
Make sure you guys are using your mic.
That industry doesn't even really work like that, so it's a misnomer for a lot of these real estate investors.
Yes.
But, because there's a lot more licensing that they need to go through outside of the township, but that's probably.
I think it's a
why.
lot of their thinking. I don't know, but that's.
That's a tough one, I mean,
so Josh, what do you think is the best plan here?
I think we just need to reduce from where we're at. I think if we look at our commercial districts, we see C-1 is along our corridors. It's our least intense commercial district. I think we bring it out of the C1s, keep it in the C2, which is our shopping centers. So they're already kind of secluded by themselves. And I think we take it out of the C3, which is our densest population, right, our densest area, and then keep it in the C-4, which is already kind of our other section, our high intensity uses. And I think we take it out of the commercial districts that have the most impact on residents.
where do we see them, the most right now? Do we see it the most at C1?
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, there's the most, and let me pull up a zoning map too.
Yes, C1 is neighborhood
It's-
commercial, right?
It's neighbor commercial. There's probably the most C1 property
Okay.
in the township.
Like what the gentlemen were here for. There could be a smoke shop
Yes.
under those apartments.
No, they're buying the racks as we speak, just so you know. So,
But I guess the reason I'm asking it that way, as opposed to what the zoning makeup is I think part of one, we gotta identify, and maybe this will be tough to do, okay, what's the actual driving force between the prevalence of them? Is it that it's so many districts, or is it the threshold, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we have any comparable townships we can look at that might have mitigated this issue that maybe the county's aware of or something like that. But I think maybe identifying like what the issue is.
well, like Highland Park, Westchester Pike, is that C1?
Right, so that's kind of what I brought up here. So C1 generally goes the distance parallel to our commercial corridor. So usually one parcel
sorry,
deep.
what are we
One
looking at?
parcel deep on either side. So this is the zoning map for the township. So here's 69th Street down here,
What is the 69th Street? What's the orange?
C-3, that's our downtown zoning district.
Okay.
So that's one of the ones
What
that-
did you say C4 is?
C4 is our industrial area. So
Industrial, okay.
SEPTA, and then the there's a few other pockets. It's,
That would
if you look-
essentially, if we relegated to C4, it would essentially mean they wouldn't exist anymore, or new ones wouldn't exist.
right, so it's this
There's like
pocket down here,
4
and then
spots.
there's, right, there's a few pockets in other spots of the township. But it's very limited. That's our highest intensity district. And then sorry, this is taking a long time to load. Our C2s are like our shopping centers. So those are also not a ton of space. So like this is, yeah, here's all of our C2s, Barclay Square, Bond. I forget. That's not a shopping center.
So there could conceivably be a smoke shop in the Bond Center.
There could, and right now, you could have it in C1, C2, C3, C4, as long as you meet those special exception requirements, as long as there's not one within 500 feet, as long as you can provide buffering between the school, as long as you're open only for so many hours, as long as you don't serve alcohol at the bar. As long as you can prove all of those things, you can go anywhere, C1, C2, C3, C4.
And what you're saying is maintain the special exception threshold, but limited to C2 and C4.
Right, because
Or you-
C1 has it's all along residential, almost.
That's all the red areas.
That's not, I mean, they're all red, but it's all the light red areas. So it's usually along commercial corridors. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse, but it's supposed to be right, kind of, it's our residential commercial. So it's supposed to have a lot of interaction with residents.
Mhm.
That's kind of the idea. A lot of times they'll even be, right, residents on top, commercial on the bottom.
Right.
It's close to our neighborhoods, versus shopping centers, which are like, this is your island of shopping center. Or C3, which is our downtown.
And so just so we're clear, because we are obviously on the record, what are the adverse impacts that we're trying to prevent by even looking at I don't even think we stated that, but just to be clear, for people wondering why is this even a discussion, we should probably.
So as far as, we've been just getting a lot of complaints that there's kind of a proliferation of them and that it attracts,
That should be said.
yeah, that it attracts or it brings an unattractive element to the township. And that's mainly the complaints we've been receiving, especially at the zoning hearing board meetings where people come out to speak against, the fourth smoke shop in their community and in their neighborhood.
But they're still passing through, I guess.
As long as you meet the requirements, they have to allow it. That's the zoning, that's how it was written, right?
So
They
the
can't say
500
no or
feet-
else they'll get sued and lose.
Can the 500 feet be extended out?
You guys want it to be. You just have to,
So wait a minute, would Bond Shopping Center
Uh-huh.
from the high school, from Upper Darby High School, would that be over 500 feet?
So it doesn't say right now that it can't be within 500 feet of a school. It just says if it is, it has to be a buffer.
Could we get away with limiting to one per contiguous commercial district? Is that something does that make sense?
Or you just make the footage big enough that they
One,
can't be?
You mean like for
In
in
other
the
words, you got a
C2?
commercial C1 district that, it's delineated on the map, and we're only permitting one per district.
What, do we have a nail
I'd be
salon
careful
policy?
about that. Probably is too high of a burden.
Okay.
Because, you don't want your laws to get struck down either.
Right.
Right, you wanna, there has to be,
Do that in effect by limiting, just like if we wanted to be as strict as possible and say just C4, that would essentially do that and then some.
Could we
I don't- we-
could we get away with that, to be honest with you?
I don't know, because, right, they've tried to do that with group homes, but that's also got shot down
I don't
before as well.
See, because I think once you do that, that effectually says it's not allowed.
Right, so,
But this is group homes in the same category. I mean,
no, I'm just
The
saying,
point is, if they struck it down for
Yeah.
group homes, they'll likely strike it down for this.
that's why my recommendation would be more, I mean, you certainly can maybe fiddle within a little bit of the lines, maybe another 100 feet here or there. But I would just recommend reducing the categories that it's allowed. I'm sure there's no reason it has to be allowed in every single commercial district. I mean, maybe, but we would need more
C2
information.
is shopping centers.
C2 is shopping centers generally. Now, there's exceptions everywhere.
Right.
There's some old industrial centers that kind of got reduced in use. If you think of like where Marinelli is, that's, I think, C2. And if you think of like the Primos area, that's also C2. They used to be M&I think in the 80s, and then they were reduced down. But they're generally our shopping centers.
So if we were to just limit it to the C2 and C4,
Mhm.
and there is plenty of C2 space throughout the township.
Right.
And not permitted in C1, that would go a long way to,
Restrict and
Restrict,
increase it to
right.
1,000 feet from 500.
yeah.
Because in Highland Park and Westchester Pike, there's 3 within 300 feet of each other.
Oh, my
Exactly.
goodness.
So isn't that where we would want them, like on Westchester Pike, not near residential?
Well, not if you live
They
right
back
there.
up, and if you live right next door, you wouldn't want.
No, so I'm only,
Someone lives near every. I mean,
right,
you
no,
know,
I'm
so
saying it's,
where would we-
no, because their neighborhood, the C1 is neighborhood commercial.
It's
These are
the lowest
small,
intensity.
Little mom and pop stores.
Westchester Pike is C1?
I think
Yes.
you're looking at it because
Oh, it is.
Westchester Pike is such a busy street, but in reality, those shops are neighborhood type shops, okay? Whereas Bond Shopping Center, the big parking lot far from the street.
So,
You may
so
not
the,
like that, but it's-
so the brand new shop, the brand new shopping center,
Salon,
yeah,
yeah,
so that would be considered,
C2.
okay.
yeah.
That's
What
why
we're
it's
trying to
south.
come up with is something that's restrictive, but not, it's gonna get
Not so restricted, it'll get
shot.
struck down, because then we've wasted time.
Right, because if you relegate it to just shopping centers, but then it increase the distance between them, then it essentially, because what, I mean, there's a finite amount of shopping centers. I'm just trying to think of this in a way where they won't look at it on his face and say like, oh, this is just a workaround.
Yeah.
You're effectively doing the same thing as relegating it to C4.
Well, that's why I think with the C2, there's enough shopping centers where nobody can say there's such a hardship, you know, I
Because are
can't, I
the
can't.
shopping, you have to forgive me, my spatial, I'm not good with like distances, just visually,
Mhm.
but is one shopping center wider than 500? Like, could multiple go in one shopping center? 'Cause
They've done
I would
it.
think
They-
that I wouldn't,
They did it at Westchester Pike and Highland Park. They're a couple doors from each other.
right, but I'm talking about shopping, if we relegate it to shopping centers.
Right. Well, we'd still have the,
What we wouldn't want to happen is have a shopping center of smoke shops.
well, we would
right?
still have the 500 feet or even,
That's what I'm asking.
or even 1,000 feet,
Or make it 1,000 feet.
but you can't have, they
Well,
can't
that's
be
what I'm asking,
within,
like,
yeah.
a shopping center is what? Is that larger than 500? Like, I just don't have the spatial, I'm not good with
Well,
that.
listen, so picture, you know, say we make it, they can't have 2 smoke shops within 1,000 feet of each other in a shopping center. So that'll prevent them from having smoke shop row.
Mm.
Now, we may not be able to do much about if there's one at one end and one at the other.
Right.
And I think some of it, what's going to happen is some of these are going to go out of business. I think one already in Westchester Pike has closed up because there was so much competition. So eventually,
Right, that's
They-
the other thing, is could 2 survive in a shopping center anyway?
You said you closed.
Is there
it.
enough business for it? Right.
How and why?
Because it didn't meet the requirements, it was too close. It was within 500 feet.
Why was it allowed from the beginning?
they just opened. They just opened.
Ah,
If that's the one you're thinking of in the little smoke shop or those creative.
Well-
On the other hand, 2 of those were existing non-conforming, they were already there.
Right, there's been one that's been there for years. I remember, like, when back in my old house, I would drive past it, like, how is this thing still in business?
So if you do C2 and C4 and make it 1,000 feet, I think that will do as much as we can and get it moved.
Yeah.
Whatever we do, we should try to get it moved as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Let everybody know that we're serious.
Right.
And then we have to wait, because what's going to happen is a lot of these are going to close on their own. Yes.
Let me ask, you brought, well,
Well,
yeah,
that's,
But they're still positioning, they're still good, yeah.
but you brought up a good point that I don't think we even touched on, is does this really address? So, he said that one shop opened up illegally, I'm assuming you just mean like they had a higher, they were selling this stuff at a higher threshold than it was allowable and it wasn't permitted or whatever the case may be.
So they just.
How
One day
prevalent-
they just opened up and
Right.
we got a complaint, so we went in, we shut them down, said you have to go through the zoning hearing.
How prevalent, and I'm not asking for specific numbers, but just, I guess anecdotally, how, is that common, the illegal smoke shop versus like, because what we're talking about is people that's actually going through the actual process to properly open up
Right.
smoke shops. Is that generally,
We
is
can-
that
you know,
the
we-
exception or the rule? Do people
We get both. It's, I had someone today who came in and wanted to go through the process.
Okay.
It's, it's both. You got good people who follow the rules and bad people who don't. I don't know if it's necessarily one more than the other, but we have been shutting down a lot of them. I can think of 3 recent zoning hearing boards that we had, all for shops that opened and then closed. But I can also think of 2 who came in and talked to me and who went through the process.
Can we limit the hours?
Yeah, which we do.
Property by me, it's been robbed twice already.
We do, yeah, we do limit the hours. Is that the one on State Road?
The ordinance has that limit.
Township.
Oh.
I'm sorry, what are the hours?
Ah. Steve might be able to find it faster, but
Because this place is open at 1 o'clock in the morning.
For C4, it ceases at 9 PM. For
I think they're all the same.
I think one can go till 11. Isn't there one that's?
C3,
Uh,
300 feet.
Make sure your mic's on.
11 PM.
Yeah,
to
there's an
10
11.
a.m. Oh, however, if it's located within. Yeah, 11 PM to 10 AM.
For the closing
It must
time.
be closed if
Right.
it's- So 11 in C3 if it's near residential.
So I think when we do come back and make recommendations, I think probably it should be 3-part. It should be, right, the meat of what's in there. It should also just be, amending those use categories to maybe something a little bit more restrictive. And then it should also definitely be looking at the definition of what is a smoke shop. Because, and I know Mike and I don't know, Mike, if you want to speak about this, we talked about, maybe diversifying that definition a little bit more for whether you're a convenience store with smoking, or you're a smoke shop. And maybe those are three different definitions with 3 different categories of use.
It sounds hard to
We
manage.
don't have we don't have a definition for convenience store, like alone? Oh, I didn't realize that.
It's just now retail.
And is there an ordinance, are there rules around the signage of it?
No,
And the
that would
advertisement
be
of it?
helpful as well. So if you are under that 20%, you can't say you're a smoke shop or something like that would be helpful too.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because I brought that up in our meeting as well, Mike.
The 20% is an issue, right? Someone comes in and says, their convenience store, like, how do you measure that 20%?
Right.
So if you had convenience store tobacco sales,
Well, even,
kind of,
well, Cassandra's even mentioning just the visibility of it. Like if you're, if you're a deli and smoke shop, right, or deli and cigarettes, we don't have anything that says you can't say
Hey, right.
that it is if you're, right,
Attracted, whatever.
right, which might be as bad as actually, maybe it's not as bad as being a smoke shop, but maybe it's along the same lines of at least perception wise.
Well, sure. I mean,
That's what,
advertisement, that's marketing. I mean,
So a deli can make their own decision whether or not to get a tobacco license or not.
Sure.
Yes. And that's probably the best way to just leave that. I wouldn't touch that. They want to do it, let them do it.
But it's if they want to put the sign up that says deli and tobacco.
If they want to put a sign up, that's different. I totally agree.
Right, and that's what we're saying. We don't have anything about them putting the sign up. You can put a sign up that says whatever you want. And maybe that's a First Amendment thing. I don't know. But
well, goodness, there should be some sort of
What was the standard
rules
review
about
for,
that.
Like, in addition to everything we're talking about, is there, maybe there is, and I'm just got blinders on to it right now. But do we have to keep it as a special exception? Can we recommend that it has to meet the level of variance approval? for
so
smoking?
variance would just be permitted or prohibited. So,
Well, yeah, I guess that's.
so I mean, it's either, right, it's permitted, it's special exception, or it's prohibited. Or it's conditional, which means it has to go through council, which we don't actually have any of that. Nor do I think that's the right move for this.
Wait, say that again.
The conditional?
You think we
refer-
should make it a conditional?
No,
Oh, you don't, okay.
I don't think we should make it a
Gotcha,
conditional.
okay.
I think it should, I think right now it's all just special exception. I think, again, unless there's some sort of active case law that it was written the way it's written, which there very well might be, I think have it prohibited in maybe like C1, C3, and then have it special exception, which means if they want to try and meet that burden in the C1 and C3, saying, they have to meet that hardship burden,
Right.
then they can try and do so to the zoning hearing board. But it's not like a checklist, right? If you meet these requirements, we have to say yes, which is what it is in every commercial district.
So what do we need to do to move ahead? You're going to create something based upon our conversation tonight but I'm all for 1,000.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can,
Talk to Courtney to make sure, because we don't want to do all this and then jumps in the fourth quarter, like, actually, can't do any of that.
so let me,
Could we-
let me craft an email with maybe some highlights of our conversation. And I'll make sure I CC you guys, everyone will be on it, and I'll send it to Courtney so she can get us a comment back. And then we can see if it's something worth moving on to, or if, no, the ordinance is written because of this case that says that it'd be too restrictive otherwise, and it's some sort of legal issue.
But also, what should be included is the community comment. I mean, if people are feeling in some way encroached in or endangered, that should be a very real and present feature of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why we have, public comment. And if you guys listen to any of the zoning hearing boards, you'll certainly hear their comments as well during these cases. But, right now, we're just throwing ideas around. But eventually, we'll come together and you guys will vote to recommend approval on a specific, ordinance amendment. And yeah, we want as much public comment as we can for that. Right now, we're new. No one really knows who we are or that it's a thing, but, eventually, people will start coming.
And I do agree with whoever said this should happen quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, like if we have to have another special meeting or earlier, I'm all for coming because,
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, it's
first of
hard.
all,
We're about to hit the
Some people
holidays.
want them. They have customers, so somebody's shopping at them. So we have to take the other half of the township people. We might not like that, but they're here and they're residents and they want them. So we have to consider they're serving some need to some people that still use tobacco products.
Yeah, they're
Sure.
not closing.
Just like, everybody wants alcohol. It is limited to certain places.
Not by us, by the Liquor Control Board.
Okay, but there is some limitation.
So just as we wrap it up, it seems the points that we all are agreeing on is to propose to Courtney that we bring something down to just C2 and C4, that we perhaps change 500 feet to 1,000 feet, that we double check what the hours are.
Yes.
and See if the hours are really what we think they should be.
Or could be limited.
Right? Button up the idea of the signage, who says they're what, and also come back with a better definition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, but I also like the suggestion that, I can't remember if it was Mike or Josh who said it, but, not just like refining the definition of smoke shop, but maybe parsing out some of the nuances of convenience store with the, because I think,
Yeah, that could be split.
I don't think we should be just like lumping them all together, because I do think there's a distinction, at least I see them as a distinction.
Yeah, because, I mean, I would be
So I don't wanna
stunned if
confuse-
Wawa is considered
A place
a
hanging out.
smoke, a
right.
smoke shop.
A place
Oh,
hanging out and
definitely not.
smoking is different.
They would lobby to-
Right.
Right,
That's
So-
different than grabbing a sandwich and a cigarette. and
Right,
walking
I
out the
don't
door.
want like convenience stores, like, you could only be in a
yeah,
shopping center.
Yeah.
It's not convenient. You
Right.
gotta drive. But, yeah, so I definitely would want to fine tune that, so whatever changes doesn't like all of a sudden.
That's where we need the definition.
lump everyone.
Having to sell tobacco products now you're restricted by ordinance.
Yeah.
Okay, the other item from a zoning standpoint is to revisit some of the parking regulations. Ordinance-wise, did you say, there was something for that, wasn't there? Yeah, you sent the link to the E-code.
I did. I know this is something that I think you wanted to bring up, so I don't have anything prepared
Yeah,
specifically on
and
it.
so I would say we could table that till next
Yeah.
meeting. Yeah, this was a big one, that this is a good one to really focus on, much more important right now and much more timely to get at this one. And so we can just,
Can you remind us the overarching issue again? 'Cause I
And
remember
then,
us talking-
yeah, and then make a motion too.
to table it? Yeah. The parking was to just specifically look at the definitions and regulations around off-street parking. That was it.
Oh, was that in light of the
In light
the
of the large
driveway?
front
Yeah.
yard driveway
Okay.
thing.
Mhm.
Right. So I'd like to entertain a motion to table that to another meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Motion second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And after that, then, we have that, the only thing I had been hanging on to old business was what we just talked about and tabled to another meeting. Does anybody have any new business to bring up?
Are you guys good with this meeting at this time for 2023? I have to get that to Alexa so she can put it out on the calendar.
So second Monday of each month, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm okay with work.
Great for me.
Mm-hmm. That's
Make a
fine.
motion.
Okay, so
Make a
maintain the
motion.
meeting schedule. Any other new
No,
business?
no, could you make a motion?
On that, okay, I make the
Do we need a
motion.
motion?
Okay.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. With the second Monday at 7.
And someone is going to ask about the security
And
of
I
the
will ask
building.
about security.
Okay, thank you.
Any other new business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.